Hi guys, my name is Doug. Welcome to Third Stall Garage. This is a channel about the restoration of a 66 Mustang convertible. This is part 15. I'm going to be working on mounting the passenger fender. If you didn't watch last episode, part 14, we hung the driver's door and driver fender. I ran into a bunch of small issues on that. Not as many issues as I've been having with the passenger side fender. It's been my nemesis, and this episode I am out to tackle and tame that beast and beat it into submission, hopefully not with a hammer. Follow along as I figure out why this fender won't mount and what's wrong. I love comments below the videos. The community's been fun to get advice from people, hopefully help other people along the way, and show that somebody with average level skills with an average garage can tackle a job like this. You may need above average levels of persistence and stubbornness and determination, but that's kind of what makes the challenge fun. So thanks for being part of it. Stay tuned to find out what happens with this fender. I don't know what's going to happen either at this point. Let's figure it out together. So the car came with two passenger fenders. This is the one that was just loosely hanging on it. I highly doubt that it's an original fender. I don't see any markings on it. It's got a crappy cheap layer of primer on it. This fender, I'm guessing, was on the car. Again, I have no idea if it's original or not. I don't see any stampings on the flange. It also was sandblasted, and there are some rust pinholes in it, and then a fair amount of rust down in the corner. If it were to fit immaculately, it could probably be repaired and fixed, but the other fender seems to be in much better shape. Whenever I mount these, and I've only tried briefly, I've had horrible problems getting them to sit flush, and I need to figure out what's going wrong. If you haven't watched the other episodes, I encourage you to do that. But I've got a new cowl, upper and lower side panels, fender aprons that are in as well, and something's not right. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's this mounting flange, if it's the way it sits in and out. The frame is straight. The radiator mount, I'm pretty sure, is where it's supposed to be. So today's episode is going to be about trying to figure out what I need to do to get this to all mount. My shock tower support, or strut tower, I forget exactly what it's called, sorry, I think is correct, left to right or front to back with the way we're looking. It may be off slightly or slightly different than this shock tower. And I don't know if that's causing the panels to be slightly kittywampus. I did need to trim this fender panel in order to get those two bolts to mount, which you can kind of see. There's the original bolt hole, and then the little black dot is the bolt that I used to temporarily mount it. So I'm gonna be working with adjusting those to see how we can get this fender to fit. As you saw from the time lapse, I mounted the old fender. And it's on, fits horribly. I've got an interference fit here where the fender hits the door. Now this doesn't look awful, this does look awful. The gap becomes larger down on the bottom, almost as if the whole fender were tilted this way, kicking the front up. which is what I'm seeing in the front here. So in the front, got a big gap here along the fender. If I even try to pull this down, the lower part of the fender swings out, and the whole fender is kind of twisting to get that to fit. If I look at the body line here, it looks almost straight all the way down the whole length of the car. If I compare that to the driver's side, it's a little hard to see, but there's a nice gentle curve all the way down the front, where it seems like it's supposed to be a slope that way. I would love pictures from some others. If, you know, what's your body line look like? It almost seems a bit like with this fender, my body line with my door goes and then it kicks back up, like there's a joint there at the door. So something's not right. I'm gonna mount the other fender and see if the situation is exactly the same. If so, that makes me think that there's a problem somewhere with the fender aprons or the mounting. If the other fender mounts perfect, then I know the problem is in this fender and I can send it to the scrapyard or hang it on the wall for wall art. So let's see how the other one goes. So I've got the new fender mounted, not new, newer fender mounted. And it's not awful here. Don't look below that. Drop this down on. Seems to fit decently. Put a clamp on here to hold it. One issue that I have is the mounting bracket for the back of the headlight bucket. This should be flush against there. This bracket got welded on by the factory in the wrong spot. I've seen other videos where that's happened, but if you look up here, this is the headlight bucket. This bracket should be moved forward until it's flush with that, and a couple screws will go in that way. So I'll have to drill out those spot welds, move that in. I'll show that in a video later. Body line looks pretty similar to the other side, so you'd think, oh, this is going great. Then you look at my door gap. It's thinner and thinner and overlaps and way overlaps. And it's, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch overlap at the bottom. If I try to force that over, the end either pops up or the whole thing twists. Why? I have no idea. So I sat in the stool and thought about it for a while. And I was just slowly working on making progress on it. I took the bolts out of the fender aprons to loosen these up a bit on both sides, which allowed them to relax a little bit, fall into place a bit more. I also played around with this gap between the headlight bucket and the radiator frame. What I noticed was that my fender on the passenger side was tilted down more than the driver's side fender, and I want them to match each other. So I ran a string line just tied to a weight. And you can see that when the string goes over the top of the fender, there is just a very small gap between the string and the top of the fender. And I set that one to match this side. So that gap is about the same. But in order to get the passenger side to match, I needed to space this out maybe about a ½ inch. So right now I just have a little piece of metal clamped in there to set this. Tweaking those, loosening up these fender aprons has helped. It's slowly moving in the right direction. This gap isn't great. I don't have this bolt tight yet, I don't think. So I may need to shim between the bracket that the bolt goes through and the fender to get this gap right. All of that is helping with my gap a bit. We still don't have a good gap here, but instead of like a 3/4 inch overlap, I need to move it maybe another 1/8 of an inch. So we're definitely heading in the right direction. The other thing that I realized that was a little disappointing is this fender is not square or straight. When I put my level down that ridge on the fender, on my driver's side, that gap, this fender is nice and flat. On the passenger side, I have between a full 1/8 of an inch and 3/16 of an inch across this fender. So this fender has a bow to it, unfortunately this way. So I'm gonna have to try to see if I can pull that out. I cannot feel any kinks in it. So I don't know, somebody lost their balance and sat on it one time or whatnot. So I'm gonna take a pipe and a C-clamp and try to see if I can put this thing in here to give myself a hand to kind of pull on that and see if I can straighten this fender out a bit. At this point, I'm not sure what else to do. If I can try to straighten that out, seems like that might actually make my problem here a bit worse, but the more I just keep massaging it and working on the fitment, slowly keeps getting closer. So let's see what happens with this. I have no idea if this will work or not. I know you're not really supposed to weld to cast or maybe old galvanized pipe, but it's just a little tack weld to hold that in place. And I'm gonna try to just flex this fender out a little bit. I put the pipe on there because I don't want to pull on kind of one particular point. I might get a kink then. I just kind of want to spread it out. So I got my feet against the shock tower and I'm gonna pull on it for a little bit. See if that did anything. I remember where I put my straight edge. Oh my heavens. I went a little far in one spot, a little under in another. So I'm that worked better than I thought it would. All right, I'm gonna keep trying to pull and push in different spots and see how close I can get this. So the fender is a whole lot straighter. I put the straight edge on that body line, the body ridge, pretty flat all the way down. It's a little hard to see that. I feel good enough with the way that it is that I don't think I need to replace the fender. Pretty straight. I did put a 2x4 up here, which I'll pull out now. And as I pushed against it, the 2x4 made some dents here. So that was unfortunate. That I will have to try to hammer and dolly out and fix that. So made one mistake in the process, but other than that, I got a pretty straight fender. That also helped my gap quite a bit. It's still not quite right. I've run into one other problem, and that is my bolt hole underneath is pretty significantly off. So as I try to bolt this fender on, the hole is here and needs to be there. It is about 3/4 of an inch off of where I need it to be. If I pull the fender that far over, this gap along the door becomes huge and the whole fender twists quite a bit. So I think there's a mistake, or the new rocker panel that was put in is not quite right. So I'm gonna have to notch this hole, probably tack weld in that nut, and then hopefully this fender will fit better. And I may still need to work with this gap here. Nothing fits easy. So I have the fender back off again. It's sitting on the sawhorse here in a relaxed state, and the fender's pretty straight now. It took a lot more work than what I showed in the time lapse, and that's fine. Everything takes a lot of fit and fiddle to get it to work. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take this mounting tab and I'm gonna bend it. I'm gonna tweak it a little bit towards the back and almost on kind of a 45-degree angle here. Let me grab a channel lock. It does not sit flush to the fender. So I'm gonna kind of bend it this direction a little bit. Something about like that. And then just for trying, I'm gonna put 3 washers here. And then I'll probably put them on with tape or something. And then bolt the fender back on. And I'm hoping that will shim the door this direction, help my gap here. Maybe my mounting bolt in the bottom will get a little bit closer as well. And then we'll see how it fits. Fender is back on and fitting decently. I think this is about to wrap it up for this episode. My gap on the door is pretty good. My body line matches up decently on the top and on the bottom. If anything, the fender is a touch high. Visually, they're pretty similar. Gap might be a touch wide, but this top lines up pretty well with the door, and those were some of my, getting those body lines are some of my highest priority. Eventually, I'll need to do some work to this fender. I think I'm gonna weld the radio antenna hole shut. This curve isn't too bad. I think I would like to stretch this a little bit tighter there, and this edge rides a little bit low. There's a lip there that the cowl sits up a touch higher, so I'll need to raise this panel up. But it's straight, it's mounted. Oh, the other piece is the mounting hole in the bottom of the fender does not line up with the hole, so I think I'm gonna modify the fender so that the hole lines up well. I did end up putting 5 washers between the mounting bolt and the fender. That's the green tape you can see behind the bolt there. Sorry, it's hard to videotape this. There, you can see the green tape that goes between you've got a bolt, a washer, the mounting flange, and then there are 5 washers wrapped in green painter's tape up spacing the fender forward. And that I use to set my door gap here. So the next episode will be kind of fun and exciting, and that will be trying to fit the hood. I did set the hood hinges in. Probably drag my wife out here sometime and have her help me bolt the hood on. And that will let me know whether the gap between these 2 fenders and the cowl all fit together well. So thanks for watching. Again, post a comment in the comment section below. Let me know if you have any questions, if I can help you with your project at all, or if you have feedback that will help me. I'd love to hear that too. Have a great day.